Я перепрошую, можливо, буде питання англійською мовою. Вам потрібно перекладачі чи не?
It's May 10, Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation. My name is Svetlana Chaparenko, and now we will have the presentation called Cyber Defense Strategies, Effective Solutions in Ukraine and Ongoing Measures to Counter Russian Threats. Joining us in our studio are Bohdan Solomykin, analyst at the Analytical Center for Information Resources, and Oleksandr Oleshko, analyst at the Analytical Center for Information Resources. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good afternoon. So let's start with some information about your organization. How does it help to reinforce the cybersecurity of our cyberspace? Well, first of all, our civil organization is involved in analytical research, and first of all, for an umpteenth years, starting maybe from the year 2014, our organization is involved in research of the security problems, the technical side of the security of the social networks, social media, and it all started with just simple cooperation. Like, here's Russian side who creates deepfakes, who creates negative narratives to cover Ukraine, to demonstrate it as a party to the conflict, to demonstrate us, to depict us from then under some negative angle. So all those fakes about crime committed by Ukrainian troops, about the Nazis, that's something that was created from the very first days of the Russian invasion from the year 2014. And our civil organization, Analytical Center or for Information Resources, is the group of enthusiasts with technical background who know how the social networks work, how the software operates, and the enthusiasts who develop different applications, and volunteers, military people who work basically pro bono on a volunteer basis and study the matter of security in mass media and online in general. Another question: how did we come up with the idea of creating the applications that allow us checking for security of the social media and thus protecting the citizens of Ukraine from breaking into their social life, into their media life? So first of all, we've done fundamental research of the technological side of the applications, specifically such application as Telegram, because basically our civil organization started with working on the data massives from Telegram. We were analyzing data from the open sources, mostly in being involved in OSINT. So OSINT is the research and intelligence of the data which are available in open source, and on the other side is the mechanics of the application, and everybody who has access to the computer can get such information. But again, having access to that information, still we need to have our software improved, enhanced and upgraded, which requires quite meticulous work on all levels. Well, quite an important area of your work is the reinforcement of our security and defense forces in terms of their cyber security. And there was a software developed that allows the Ukrainian military to get data from the gadgets of the Russian troops. So give us more details about this. How does it work, and What are its advantages? Well, it's not us and software application, that's the whole platform that supports the cyber operations, for profound research of different types. So we may research people, companies, systems, and so on and so forth. And using that software, we can analyze the big data massives. There's a lot of information in open sources, but analyzing it is quite difficult because the information is of different nature. Sometimes it's not easily available. So basically the platform allows to gather information, generalize it, and analyze it in one space. We work with a number of communication platforms, messengers, social networks, operation systems. We are also involved in profound research. So what is the way the people work with the data? They get some massive of data, they analyze it, and they start going deeper and deeper. It takes days, sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and our platform allows doing it not in weeks and months, but in days or sometimes in hours. So basically we set the goal, and the system starts searching through different sources of information, looking for connection, ties, interlinks, something non-obvious ways of getting information, and so on and so forth. And on top of that, the platform also covers the technical component. Basically, the specialist who uses it doesn't need to possess some profound technical skills, because it's the platform who does everything for them. Also, the platform is capable of doing the geointelligence. We are able to retrieve information through a number of methods that allows us to track some concentrations of people, of groups, analyze their movements, their behavior, and draw conclusions from there, filter some people by segments or different parameters. Also, all that information that we retrieve is being put together into analysis system. That's information of different nature. It includes both text, documents, audio, video, all types of media. All of that is aggregated, and from there we may easily retrieve like addresses, telephone numbers, geographical coordinates, and other pieces of information. And based on that information, we build the connections. The platform shows us where we can go further with our intelligence. We may identify the patterns, analyze the behavior, and thus from some massive of data we may draw an analytical summary with recommendations and about how to work with this information. Yeah, so let's proceed to Telegram, because we would like to focus on them separately. Doesn't this system violate the law on personal data? Because as you mentioned, it gathers information from the messengers, from the communications. So basically we gather data from the open sources of information. Everything that is uploaded online, it may one way or another end up in open source. It includes banking details, personal communications, personal correspondence, and this is why our system works with the open sources only. And it's built in a way that there is a brain of this system and there is a skeleton, so to say. So this skeleton, it doesn't contain anything classified, and we will publish it in open source shortly, but the brain, it's only available to the security and defense forces. This is why this platform cannot be used. Well, I mean, it can be used, but without that brain, the efficiency will be at zero level. It's only available to security and defense forces again, so we see no contradictions here. Okay, so then a couple of words about Telegram. The developer Pavel Durov says that it's a safe and secure messenger. There would be no leakage of data. They don't work in favor of Russia. Is it really so? I know that you've developed an application that is capable of controlling the type of data fed to different types of applications, including Telegram. Well, first of all, non-single messenger can be 100% secure. As I told you, everything that is uploaded to the internet can end up in also open source one way or another sooner or later. It may be a result of just a banal mistake on part of the messenger or a part of the user, or there may be some developers who are perpetrating to hack that application. So again, there are no 100% secure messengers. Telegram is probably the one that raises the most questions. We see a lot of vulnerabilities there, and a lot of those vulnerabilities would never be closed because they are part of the ecosystem. So they are basically used for some legal things, for legal function. But again, it can be used not only for such simple purposes, so to say conventional purposes. So having accumulated our experience of work with the cybersecurity and Telegram, we've created such a service that allows checking the privacy settings of your Telegram application, and it provides recommendations on how to set up Telegram in order not to lose or to reduce the risk of losing your personal data. Well, again, it doesn't guarantee you security 100%. Such tool simply cannot exist, but we understand that Telegram or any other service cannot be 100% banned or prohibited. This is why we promote such an approach, that we rather prefer to explain to the people what is information hygiene, how to work with the messengers and other applications, and using that application a person can go through a number of phases. First phase is the check of the privacy settings. For example, such options as adding you to the group or sending a message from an unknown number to you, all those things, they can work against you. So our task is to explain to you how all those things can be used against you and how to protect yourselves against that. Another phase is not only about Telegram, but it's about the leakage of personal data in general. So all of the information that ends up in public domain can be found. Well, not everybody can do that. Not everybody can aggregate them. Not everybody can set the search parameters. This is why our security and defense forces already use part of that tool, but we want to have it open for the civilians to just demonstrate that in quite a legal way, without any criminal activities, any information can be obtained from the public domain. Names, banking details, addresses, telephone numbers, credit history, the history of purchases, everything can be available offline, and people just don't understand how bad things really are with its security. So shortly we are about to present this service that we will promote for the people, so that people just simply understand how to use the information hygiene. There will be yet another phase, but let's discuss it further on. So leak of personal data on such a wide scale, is it only the Telegram problem, or is it also a problem of other messengers like WhatsApp or Viber? Well, all of the messengers are not 100% secure, but Telegram again is like the most vulnerable in this sense, and our enemy knows how to use those vulnerabilities. This is why we focus mostly on Telegram now. Again, there are no 100% secure messengers, and we don't recommend to send any classified or secret information through messengers. Again, Telegram is quite a dangerous thing, but again, if you adhere to the information hygiene rules, you can increase the level of security. Well, you implement a number of useful tools for the security and defense forces, so tell us more about your cooperation and what other additional services that are used by our military that allow them to protect themselves in the cyberspace. Well, we've already told about those services that we about those services that we could tell you about, but there are more services that we are unfortunately not in liberty to tell you about, but shortly I hope they will be available in public domain. So the way we cooperate is we get requests from the security and defense agencies, and we come up with a solution, and we get the feedback whether the solution fits or it needs to be adjusted. Okay, so what are the other solutions that Ukraine needs to protect its cyberspace, and what are the recommendations that you can provide for protection of our cyberspace, specifically for our military during the wartime? Well, for the military, it's to, first of all, it's to minimize the use of messengers and social media. Do not post any information about them online. Do not use the messengers to convey any service-related information. But again, there is no universal tool which can solve all of the problems. But again, if you adhere to the information hygiene rules, unfortunately, we have a lot of problems about that. Specifically, it can be related to older generation, but please adhere to the information safety rules. Like again, like something like use this messenger and not that. It's not something that I can do. Just general recommendation is not to send any personal information online. Okay, so let me get back to Mr. Oleksandr. There is a lot of discussions about Telegram, and the government agencies recommend the public servants not to use the Telegram. But what are the alternatives for the Telegram channels? Well, a team of researchers, we've come up with such an idea to create a project. Maybe even if there is an opportunity to implement it, it's the project that is based on one of the most popular applications in Ukraine that demonstrated itself, that proved itself as quite an efficient application. I'm talking about DIA, developed by Ukrainian developers. Again, despite there's a lot of questions to this application because it's quite a raw application, is pretty young. We see that it's an alpha testing of the application which is going on, but it's improving on a daily basis. It becomes better and better every day. But again, I'm surprised to see sometimes in the pages of the officials or in the channels of the officials, specifically in those where the security problems of Telegram are discussed, at the same time there may be a description of the fact, like you can read the freshest news on our Telegram channel. So again, does it look really good? But Telegram can be like described as a dumpster platform which contains both useful and not very useful information. And again, we don't really know whether the Telegram service screen that information. Do they collect any databases as the other social media were doing, for example Facebook or Vkontakte, developed by the same Pavel Durov? In Vkontakte we've seen there was a folder which was called deleted, and it was clear that it was a deleted data of all of the users or every single user. And the same thing may be implemented in Telegram, but again, the representatives of our civil organization also conducted a small experiment how it's happening and how long does it take to remove the information that was removed by you. For example, you've sent your passport data to a wrong person, to a wrong user. So you've deleted your message and you think that it disappeared. Well, you've sent your passport copy, your bank card details, but again, in those systems, there is the instant deleting and deleting from server, and then this information is filtered and screened. So as our research has demonstrated in Telegram, all that information is stored for about a couple of hours, and we don't know for sure where this information goes on then. Well, first it disappears, in order not to overload the servers, but the fact itself that it's stored for a couple of hours, it still brings us to the conclusion that Telegram is not quite safe for sending personal data, so we don't recommend to ban some social networks, any social media. It's a personal discretion of every single person, but again, every single person wants their personal data to be stored in a safe and secure way. So having analyzed all those peculiarities and the number of users and influx of users to DIA, again, remember that there was implementation of this option of voting or supporting different draft laws, and it was quite successfully perceived by the users. Also, this type of service is supported by the users when there was voting for Eurovision, and basically then the system started lagging because of that lot of users at the same time, but a lot of requests. But if we reduce the load on this service, we can make another service, another application that may be effective in the same way, like this Oberix software that is about to be launched with DIA, or the electronic account of the driver, electronic account of the reserve military. And we also, by the way, suggest developing such a tool as DIA channels. What will it provide? What kind of advantage it will provide to the citizens of Ukraine? The citizens of Ukraine will be able to get this information through DIA in the same way that they get through the Telegram, but from the official representatives like General Headquarters, President, First National TV, Ukrainian Truth, Ukrainska Pravda, or civil organizations like Army of Drones or Come Back Alive. So thus, we may provide the access to the official representatives of the civil organizations and institutions, as well as the mass media. For example, texty.org may have their official channel in DIA. So how does it work? How to secure yourself from any problems related to violation of human rights or freedom of speech? Obviously, all the channels are supposed to be moderated, because all that unnecessary information that was ending up in Telegram, it can gradually migrate to those official channels. Well, yes, that can happen, but it requires meticulous moderation, which is possible. It's possible even within the capacities of DIA. Again, we provide the material for printing, and this material is always checked and moderated. So the information that is about to be publicized, it will be verified, and we know that it's a verified information coming from verified sources. People will be able to comment, and this will be the implementation of the idea of the country in smartphone, which is quite interesting, and through this public we may promote the idea and develop it. So what is the phase of development of this idea? Have you presented it to the Ministry of Digital Transformation? So far it's only a suggestion. We've developed the release and such a draft proposal. It comes in a number of formats, and we are ready to see the feedback. We are the volunteer organization. We stand for implementation of initiatives. If the Ministry of Digital Transformation deems this idea as interesting, or if they want to use any of our developments, that's already good for us. Our goal is to have this project work, to have it implemented. The most important, again, like we were talking about the military, some of the members of our organization, they have military experience. They were a part of the military taking part in the battle operations. So for us, it's important to have the country exist, to have our country win. And basically, we don't get any dividends from what we do, but our military, they can implement our developments, our solutions for their own application. I mean the armed forces of Ukraine and other parts of security and defense forces who, using our applications, may exercise pressure on the enemy, plan their battle operations, and so on and so forth. And again, we don't get any information from them that we may share or might share. As my colleague Bohdan has said, all the information is classified and closed, but what we do is we take care of the technical aspects of the program. If the Ministry of Digital Transformation, if the developers of DIA will be curious about this idea, if they implement it, it will be a victory for us. That will be the biggest victory for us. It will be the achievement of our goal. Thank you very much. Dear journalists, do you have any questions to our speakers? If you do have, please raise your hands and ask your questions. Yeah, I see we're having some questions.
Army vet, and I'm wondering how we can be collaborating U.S. defense with the information we're getting, because Russia's got a history of interfering with our elections, and China's joining in as well.
Ви почули запитання, бо було погано чути.
Yes, you see, we have such big problem for today that in Ukraine, in Ukraine politics and in U.S. politics, we can see a big problem, a huge problem with Russian and Chinese propaganda for today. We see such cases that we need to work and practice, and we need to cooperate with U.S. systems, with U.S. military defense tech. Because of that, we need to make more practice. We have such lower stage than European defense systems and European power of military tech and U.S. power of military tech. And if U.S. army and Ukrainian army cooperate with this case, we can protect not our territories, not our lands, but also we can make it such big cooperation with other countries of Europe. We need to make more of this, because in maybe 2-3 years ago, there was such a big, huge problem with different Facebook accounts and Facebook groups in US that have a cooperation with such platforms such as Russia Today and Russian propaganda, and they take Russian narratives to their platforms. It was the big rather problem. And when we speak with our allies and say what you can do with that problem in stage of the government, and they said we can't do such a problem, we can't resolve this problem because these organizations, these social platforms, they make it legal. And you can't to avoid them to don't make these narratives and don't write these narratives. So for today, we need to cooperate with U.S. military power in military tech, in technology to protected our lands, protected Europe and European Union countries and US country from Chinese, Russian and enemy propaganda, information propaganda. So I think it is necessary to cooperate, to work hand to hand. Thank you.
Дякую вам. Можливо, є ще запитання?
Thank you very much. Do we have any more questions on the floor? Well, then I would like to thank our guests. Let me remind you, we just had a presentation called Cyber Defense Strategies, Effective Solutions in Ukraine and Ongoing Measures to Counter Russian Threats. And Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform will be back on air at 13:30. We will be talking about the power grid of Ukraine after the 5th massive strike of the enemy. Thank you for staying tuned.